I'm Brian Nesmith. I am the founder and chairman of Arctic Wolf, and I'm here really to talk to you about how you find product market fit. It's a critical thing for building a company and growing it, and this is Founder Confidential. So the particular aspect of the market that we're addressing is something called security operations. So you go out and buy firewalls and antivirus and endpoint protection and email protection and web security. The list goes on. You've got to build in this extra layer on top of everything that you've bought that allows you to understand, are things working the way you expect? Are they doing what you want? And the challenge with that is you've got to do it every minute of every hour of every day, and it never goes away. They spent all this money on this infrastructure to protect themselves and then had to then operate in a manner that, assuming that doesn't work. And that's effectively what we look to address, is that continuous monitoring capability, almost like a neighborhood watch for your IT infrastructure. So you can know when you've been breached and you can deal with it quickly and really prevent serious problems from occurring. We organize the service that we deliver to customers in what we call concierge teams. And we have 2- and 3-person security engineers, and they own a set of customers. They are responsible for helping those customers get configured. They engage and work with the customer so that they understand each customer's particular unique requirements. And they're there as a resource that works with the customer if they have problems. What's powerful about that is they know the customer, they have the context of the customer. And again, security, different than enterprise software or networking. When you have a security problem, it's usually a house on fire problem. And you're not gonna go through call tier 1 and say, hey, can you reboot the system? Can you unplug it? Did you do this? If anybody's ever dealt with your cable TV company sort of dynamic. And that's the typical support model. That's not our model. We want people that are available, they know the customer, they have the expertise, and that's the concierge model that we built. So my history, I've been a lifelong entrepreneur. I'd say 3 years out of college, I had pretty much moved into the technology space, working for a startup at that point in time. So I don't know, I think it's been ingrained from the beginning. I've started 2 companies, been involved in a lot of other startup companies, had some failures, had some successes along with it. I enjoy technology, I enjoy building things, I enjoy hiring and working with people, and it's a natural for me. I love this stuff. I mean, obviously, over the trajectory of your career, things change early on. You don't know much, or you don't even know what you don't know. And so a lot of it is the excitement. For me, I think in the latter stages of my career, it's just the gratification that I know can come about if you build something sustaining that lives beyond you, that's more than you, and is really the team, the collective things that they do together. So all those things are exciting for me. You're at that point, do I think I want to start something? Do I want to do something? I would say, first and foremost, you really need to question yourself, is that really what you want to do? Because it's a life-changing event. Maybe the only thing that I think is on par with that is having children and the commitment that comes with that, because it absorbs every aspect of your life. You end up not having hobbies, you don't have other things, your life is your work, and maybe it's your family, maybe there's a few other things that come with it, but there's not enough family to do that area. So I'd say, first and foremost, make sure you understand the commitment that's involved. I'd say, second, and it kind of goes to the reason we're here, is product market fit. Are you building something that people are gonna rip out of your hands when you've built it? Not nice to have, but must have. Product market fit, I got 2 parts. I'll start by one part is, and this is especially relevant, I think, for an entrepreneur when you're going to raise money. You have to be able to tell a story. In the end, selling is about storytelling. And when you're thinking about your idea of whatever you want to build, whatever the company or the service or the product, if you can't tell a story with it, you're going to have a lot of challenges. Whether you're an engineer or a salesperson or a finance person, it doesn't matter. You got to be capable of telling that story. And more importantly, I think the way you find product market fit is you go out and you sell it. And you try to convince people to buy it. And there's how you iterate and learn that story that works, what resonates. The second part, I think, of product market fit is it is the responsibility of the founder. You can't delegate learning, tuning, figuring out all the kind of subtleties of the product. This doesn't work, so what do we pivot on, and how do we go someplace different? And so product market fit, it's not a static picture. and the founders have to be intimately involved in the selling aspect. And so for me, the key for product market fit is founders can't delegate it. It remains their responsibility. It remains a responsibility till you're well into the growth phase of the company. So Arctic Wolf is, I think, a little unique in that the market that we originally identified is literally the market that we're serving today. I've heard and lived dozens of companies, hundreds of companies where they've had to pivot and pivot again and pivot again. That was not our reality. Now, we did struggle with in the early phases that I think we're just early to market. We would get a lot of people that would talk to us, they'd be interested, then they get to that final step and they're like, this doesn't quite raise to the level that I'm gonna spend money on you, which is infuriating and frustrating. But it was good because I was doing all that early selling. I actually captured the first 30 or 40 customers at Arctic Wolf, did all the work and really got an education about how quickly, the market was coming about, and it caused me to slow down the investment and realize that the market just wasn't really quite there yet. Markets have a rhythm, companies have a rhythm, and you got to try to eventually mesh them up and make them work. And that's why I highlight product market fit is not a static. I sat out, I talked to 20 people, I've got product market fit. It's like, no, that's just the beginning. You've got to keep selling, keep talking, keep iterating, keep tuning. And then there'll be a point, obviously, if you get successful, where it becomes scale. And that carries you for a while. And then the CEO can kind of move on to more about how you scale out your organization. But in that early phase, I don't think the founders can avoid, and more importantly, they're the only ones that can really iterate and evolve that product market fit in a rapid manner. If you're unsure, you don't have it. So it's pretty simple, because if you have it, people rip product out of your hands. They take it away. And I think that a lot of entrepreneurs are reluctant to ask for the order. Will you pay for this? Because if the customer won't pay for it, you still don't have it. So if you don't ask, you're not going to learn whether they say yes or no. If they say no, now you know you don't have it, and you can learn and you can move on. First customer was a company called American Inc. So it was a small firm, manufacturing firm. They had no cybersecurity staff, so they just felt exposed to the world. And I still have that $1,000 check framed on a wall. Funny story. It's odd for the CEO to be cold calling, reaching out to people. So I actually created an alternate persona called Brian Robinson. And Brian Robinson was the sales guy. He would go out and pitch and do it. And then when the early customers would ask for discounts, they're like, well, Brian Robinson's got to ask Brian Nesmith, can I get this discount? I got called out once and I fessed up immediately, but I created an alternate persona with its own email, its own Salesforce account, everything set up for that. And I was doing all that original selling and basically closed them, found them, cold calling, did the demos, set them up, got the POC and closed the account. So when we got the first set of, first customer, I would say it started happening at a kind of just a gradually accelerating rate. I kept selling, kept talking, we kept iterating, kept enhancing the product capabilities. They obviously, early customers provide a lot of feedback into what you're missing, what you need to work on. And so a lot of it is, even in that early sale, is finding out what they don't like and fixing that. We had one particular challenge. Our goal was that the customer shouldn't have to do anything. We would look at their network, we would find all the problems and we'd tell them, and we didn't provide a user interface. Well, that didn't really work that well. So we had to go back and build a user interface. And even though they didn't need it, they wanted it, they expected it, and it was a necessary element for us to make it work in the selling process. I think anybody that decides to start a company or get involved in an early startup company, you're going to experience more failure than you do success. So go in knowing that you learn with failure. And so failure isn't in and of itself bad. It teaches you what doesn't work. And so I think if you go in with that attitude, you can then realize that didn't work, so I pivot off of it, or I need to try something different. And for me, that was a big part, is that we've experienced more than our fair share of failures and things that didn't work, but it's a realization that better to learn that and move on and try something different than just muddle in it. So I think that's probably the biggest thing I leave people with, is failure is learning.